Welcome back, fam, to another heart-pounding episode on the channel. Guys, a tear-jerking tragedy just struck Mr. Hoan's family, right during tonight's fateful dinner. Just as the truth about Diep's identity was a breath away from being revealed, Mr. Hoan suddenly collapsed into a deep coma. It seemed like the secret of who is Diep was buried forever in his silence. But no. In the darkness of despair, James found an ebony box hidden deep at the bottom of his father's closet, and the truth inside is even more horrifying than incest. Diep is not Mr. Hoan's biological daughter, but her real father is a name that reeks of danger, Hoan the Wolf. Why did Mr. Hoan sell out Diep's mother to Hoan the Wolf, just to exchange for a contract? How terrifying is this 20-year-old grudge? James is racing through the storm to save his love, but will Diep accept this brutal truth? Don't miss a single second. Smash that like button to pray for Mr. Hoan's recovery, and hit subscribe right now to open this secret box with James. Let's get into the movie right now. The dining room of the Hoan villa was glittering under the chandelier tonight, but the atmosphere was as cold as an ice cellar. The table was piled high with delicacies, but no one had the appetite to touch a thing. Mr. Hoan sat at the head of the table, in his seat of authority. But contrary to his usual dignified appearance, his face was unusually flushed, tonight sweat beading on his forehead, even though the AC was on the lowest setting. His hand trembled as he held his wine glass, his eyes glazed and unfocused. To his right was Mrs. Lan. She was dressed elegantly and nobly, but her sharp eyes were constantly glancing at her husband with suspicion. She could feel the storm brewing inside the man she shared a bed with. And James sat opposite him. He didn't eat. He sat there like a statue, his eyes glued to his father. He was waiting for the verdict. 7 days had passed. Today was the deadline. "Let's eat, everyone!" Mrs. Lan spoke up, breaking the deathly silence. James didn't pick up his chopsticks. He took a deep breath, looking straight at Mr. Hoan. "Dad, what did you promise me before you went on your business trip? The whole family is here now. Say it." Clink. Mrs. Lan's spoon dropped onto her plate. She looked at her son, then at her husband. "What's going on? Are you two hiding something from me?" Mr. Hoan set the wine glass down on the table. His trembling hand caused the wine to slosh out onto the stark white tablecloth, spreading like a bloodstain. Mr. Hoan wheezed, breathing heavily and raspily, as if something was blocking his throat. "Lan, James," Mr. Hoan spoke, his voice distorted and strange. "Today, I have to speak the truth." The room seemed to freeze. Mr. Hoan braced his hands on the table, trying to stand up, but his legs no longer seemed to obey his will. He swayed. "The truth about Diep." Mr. Hoan forced out every word with difficulty, tears starting to well up. And Mrs. Dieu. "Dieu!" Mrs. Lan screamed, her face draining of all color, white as a sheet. Who did you just mention? Dieu is she still alive?" James was stunned. His mom knew Mrs. Dieu too, so everyone knew, and he was the only fool kept in the dark all these years. "Mom, who is Mrs. Dieu?" James turned and snapped, but Mr. Hoan didn't let Mrs. Lan answer. He pointed a finger toward James, his eyes rolling back in pain and utter regret. "James, you cannot love Diep, because she is..." The whole room held its breath. "She is what Dad say it. What is Diep to me?" James shouted, lunging up and rushing toward his father. "She is the daughter of..." Mr. Hoan tried to utter the final word, but it was too late. A violent pain like a sledgehammer struck the back of Mr. Hoan's neck. The blood vessels in his brain stretched beyond their limit and... population. Mr. Hoan's vision went black. His mouth drooped to one side. The arm pointing at James went limp, knocking over the wine glass and dishes on the table. Thud, Mr. Hoan's massive frame collapsed onto the cold floor, convulsing uncontrollably. "Honey, Hoan!" Mrs. Lan screamed hysterically, rushing to hold her husband. Dad! James vaulted over the dining table, collapsing to his knees beside his father. The scene was absolute chaos. A nosebleed gushed out. Mr. Hoan's eyes were still wide open, staring at James, his mouth mumbling meaningless sounds. Dieu, child. Call an ambulance immediately. James screamed at the maid who stood frozen in the corner. Mrs. Lan wept bitterly, shaking her husband. "Honey, don't leave us, wake up." But Mr. Hoan could no longer hear anything. His consciousness was sinking into eternal darkness. The secret about Diep, about Mrs. Deu, about her bloodline. Everything was being slammed shut by the doors of death right in front of James's nose. Just one more second, just one more word. Why is fate so cruel? The wail of the ambulance siren echoed from afar, tearing through the quiet night, signaling the start of a new tragedy. International Hospital, the Intensive Care Unit, ECU. James sat with his head buried in his hands outside the emergency room. His white shirt was stained with red wine and his father's blood. He looked battered, like he had just crawled back from hell. Mrs. Lam sat in the chair opposite him, thumbing her rosary beads, mumbling prayers incessantly. But occasionally her eyes flashed with a complicated look. Was it worry for her husband, or was it a sigh of relief because the secret hadn't been exposed? 3 hours passed. The operating room light turned off. The old doctor stepped out, removing his mask, shaking his head slightly. James rushed over. "Doctor, how is my father?" The doctor sighed. "We managed to save his life. However, the stroke was too severe, causing extensive brain hemorrhage. He has now fallen into a deep coma." James froze. "A coma? When will he wake up?" "It's hard to say." The doctor shook his head. "It could be days, weeks, or he might never wake up again. And even if he does, the aftermath is severe hemiplegia and complete loss of speech." Complete loss of speech. The doctor's words felt like a death sentence crashing down on James. Losing the ability to speak meant that secret would be forever buried in Mr. Hoan's damaged brain. He knew everything, but he could never open his mouth to tell James who is Diep. James leaned against the wall, sliding down to the floor. He laughed, a bitter, utterly painful laugh. The truth had been right on the tip of the tongue, just a breath away. Yet now it felt as distant as the ends of the earth. Through the thick glass of the hospital room, James watched his father, lying motionless wires, tangled around him. Mr. Hoan's eyes were shut tight. He had taken the secret into an endless sleep, leaving James stranded at a crossroads with a haunting, unanswered question. "James, you cannot love Diep because she is what? A sister, an enemy, or something else entirely?" Meanwhile, in a dark corner of the hallway, Mrs. Lam quietly pulled out her phone. She typed a message, her face returning to a terrifying coldness. "The old man is mute. Everything is still under control. Proceed." Who is Mrs. Lam texting, and what is the next action? As one door closes, another door to hell opens. James hasn't just lost the clue from his father. He's about to face a darker force, rising right within his own family. Dear viewers, Mr. Hoan collapsed right before the finish line. The secret, who is Diep, remains open, and Mrs. Lam, the powerful and mysterious woman, is beginning to reveal herself as the final boss. What will James do to find the truth when the only witness has been silenced? Can he stand against his own mother? It was late into the night. The hospital corridor was silent as a grave, with only the cold white neon light reflecting off the polished floor. Inside the ICU, Mrs. Lam sat beside Mr. Hoan's bed. She had been sitting there for 4 hours, not eating, not drinking, her eyes swollen from crying. She held her husband's large hand, now limp and ice cold. She pressed it against her cheek. That chill made her shudder, awakening a dormant conscience within her. Few knew that her sharp, venomous demeanor at home was just a shell she built to protect her status. But seeing the man she had shared a bed with for decades, lying motionless covered in wires, she collapsed completely. "Honey," Mrs. Lam whispered, her voice cracking with regret. "I'm sorry. I'm 1,000 times sorry." She remembered that horrific dinner. She admitted she had suspected him for a long time. She was jealous. She feared he was giving assets to a bastard child. She had deliberately provoked him, cornering him to force the truth so she could handle it. She never expected her words would be the straw that broke the camel's back, pushing him into this stroke. "I only wanted to scare you. I only wanted you to be afraid enough to confess. I never wanted you lying here like a soulless body." Mrs. Lam buried her head in her husband's chest, sobbing. "Wake up. If you want to acknowledge your child or grandchild, I'll accept it all. I won't be jealous anymore. I won't fight anymore. Just please wake up." The belated repentance echoed within the 4 white walls. But Mr. Hoan lay still, eyes closed, sunk deep in an endless sleep. The secret about Mrs. Diep was now locked tight in his damaged brain. No matter how much Mrs. Lam regretted it, she couldn't turn back time to take back those venomous words. Standing outside the glass window, James witnessed everything. He saw his mother's trembling shoulders. He heard her heart-wrenching sobs. For the first time in his life, he saw his mother so weak. And for the first time, he realized he couldn't rely on his mother to find the truth anymore. She was busy fighting the court of her own conscience. Now he was truly alone. James quietly left the hospital. He didn't go in to greet his mother. He feared if he stepped in there, he would collapse too. He needed to stay sharp. Dad was down. Mom had given up. He was the only man left to hold this family together, and more importantly, to save the love of his life. The sky began to pour. Icy raindrops whipped against James's face as he stepped out to the parking lot. He got in the car, but didn't start the engine right away. He rested his forehead on the steering wheel, trying to piece together the fragmented clues his father had left behind before blacking out. "James, you cannot love Diep because she is the daughter of..." And the name he had called out in his delirium, Dieu. "Oh Dieu." James muttered, "Dieu, Mrs. Dieu." The name was completely foreign to him. Growing up, he only knew his mother, Mrs. Lam. His father had never mentioned another woman. So who was Dieu? A secret lover? A first love? Or a first wife? And why did Dad say Diep was her daughter? A lightning bolt flashed in James's mind, illuminating a horrifying theory. If Dad loved Dieu and Diep is Dieu's daughter, then the most likely possibility is Diep is Dad's biological daughter. She's his half-sister. "No, that's impossible!" James punched the steering wheel hard. He refused to accept that truth. Until he had concrete proof, he wouldn't believe it. He remembered his father's eyes in those final moments. It was a look of fear, but also full of love. Was Dad trying to protect him, or protect Diep? James looked up, his gaze becoming determined, sharp as a knife. "I'll find the answer myself, Dad. Tonight." James started the engine. The car tore into the night, heading straight for the empty villa. He knew the only place that held his father's past. It was the study, the sanctuary, that even his mother rarely entered. Arriving home, the villa was plunged in darkness. The maids were asleep. James tiptoed to the second floor, standing before Mr. Hoan's office. Locked, of course, but James remembered in the keychain he took from his father's suit pocket at the hospital. When the nurse handed over his personal effects, there was a tiny old brass key, completely different from the modern ones. He took it out and inserted it into the lock. Click. It fit. The heavy wooden door creaked open, releasing the scent of old paper agar wood and his father's familiar tobacco smoke. James turned on his phone flashlight, not daring to turn on the main lights for fear of alerting the staff. He approached the majestic mahogany desk. He ransacked the drawers. Contracts, ledgers, financial reports. All business. Nothing related to his personal life. James was disappointed. Did his father really not keep any keepsakes? He slumped into his father's chair. The flashlight beam swept back and forth. Suddenly, he noticed something strange. In the bottom right cabinet, there was a small scratch on the wood, looking like a pry mark that had been cleverly concealed with a layer of new varnish. James bent down and tapped it. Thump! Thump! A hollow sound. It was a secret compartment. James's heart pounded. He used a box cutter from the desk to gently pry up the thin layer of wood. A hidden compartment appeared, and lying there all alone was a small ebony box intricately carved with moss rose patterns. James picked up the box with trembling hands. It wasn't locked. He opened the lid. A faint scent of dried flowers wafted out the scent of memories, the scent of days long gone. Inside the box were just a few trinkets. A tarnished silver hair clip, an unfinished embroidered handkerchief, and a black and white photograph yellowed at the corners. James picked up the photo, examining it under the flashlight. In it was a young couple standing in a vast tea field. The man was smiling radiantly, holding a guitar that was his father, Mr. Hoan, in his youth. He looked so happy and carefree, completely different from the stern, austere man he was now. And standing next to him was a young girl. She had long braided hair, wearing a simple traditional blouse with a delicate oval face, big round dark eyes, and a gentle smile like the Virgin Mary. James was stunned. He rubbed his eyes. The girl in the photo, she looked so much like Diep, like 2 drops of water. From the eyes, the smile, to the tiny mole at the corner of her mouth. Flipping to the back of the photo, James saw a line of neat handwriting in violet ink, slightly faded. Memories of Mok Chau Tea Hill. Winter 1995. Hoan and Dieu, vowing to be together for a lifetime. Hoan and Dieu? James read the line aloud. So it was true. Dieu was this woman, his father's unforgettable first love, and Diep, with her identical appearance, was definitely her daughter. But wait. James dug further into the box. Beneath the photo was a letter folded in 4. He opened it with trembling hands. It was a letter that had never been sent. His father's scrawled, regret-filled handwriting, written not long ago. Dieu, for 20 years I have lived in hell for abandoning you. I was a coward. I chose wealth over love, but heaven has eyes. Heaven brought Diep to me to punish me. I secretly took a DNA test. The results left me stunned. Diep is not my child, but the truth is even more terrible. She is the daughter of that man, the one whom I years ago. The letter stopped abruptly there. It seemed Mr. Hoan was in too much pain or too afraid to write any further. James read that line over and over. Diep is not my child. He wanted to scream out loud in pure ecstasy. He and Diep were not siblings. The DNA result his father mentioned confirmed it. Their love wasn't incestuous after all, but the joy didn't last long before a new fear washed over him. She is the daughter of that man, the one whom I years ago. Who was that man? And what did Mr. Hoan do to him? Murder, betrayal, or a setup? And why did his father forbid him from loving Diep because of that man? James was drowning in chaotic thoughts when his phone rang. The screen flashed, "My love, Diep." James snatched it up, his voice trembling. "Hello, Diep, are you still awake?" On the other end, Diep's voice rang out, not sleepy but filled with sheer panic. "James, I'm so scared. I just found something." "Calm down. What did you find?" James sprang up, gripping the photo of Mrs. Diep tight. "It's raining so hard tonight my roof started leaking. I climbed up to the loft to patch it when I saw an old cloth bundle stuffed deep in the rafters. It must be what my mom left behind before she ran away." Diep was gasping for breath over the phone. Inside, there's a diary. Mom wrote about a man named Hoan and another man named Hung. Hung? James frowned. The name reeked of the criminal underworld. "Yes, Mom wrote that. She loved Mr. Hoan, but she was forced to marry Hung the wolf. And your dad was the one who pushed her into that man's arms in exchange for a rare timber contract." James froze. The phone nearly slipped from his hand. Is this the truth? His father didn't just abandon Mrs. Diep. He used the woman he loved as a bargaining chip merchandise for a business deal. Was this the sin his father wanted to confess? Was this why he forbade James from loving Diep, the daughter of the woman he betrayed? "James, are you listening to me?" Diep sobbed. "So, is your father a bad person? Did he ruin my mother's life?" James bit his lip until it bled. Tears streamed down his face. He felt pain for his father, shame for his family name, and heartbreak for Diep. "Diep, stay right there. Lock the door tight. I'm coming to you right now. No matter what the past holds, I am still your James. I will never sell you out like my father did. Wait for me." James grabbed the photo, the letter, and his car keys. He dashed out of the room, plunging into the pitch-black rainy night. No gunshots, no shouting. Only the roar of an engine tearing through the night, carrying a man racing against the past to atone for his father's sins. The curtain of secrecy has been half lifted. Mr. Hoan is not Diep's father, but he is the man who caused her mother's tragedy. And Hung the wolf, Diep's real biological father. Who is he? Is he still alive? Will he come back for his daughter? Their love story has escaped the sentence of incest, only to fall into the trap of a blood feud. Will Diep accept the love of the son of the man who destroyed her mother's life? All will be answered in the next episode. Smash that like button to give James strength on this stormy mountain road. And subscribe to face the truth in that tear-soaked diary with Diep. Goodbye and see you next time.